Hello,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Well, hello, listeners. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning into the podcast today. Let's say hello to Glenda, who's over there in Australia. Hello, Glenda.
Hello, David, and hello, listeners. How are you all?
Well, I'm good. I don't know about the other lot, but I'm all right. How are you?
I'm tired.
No, I'm tired
I'm a
today
bit
as well.
tired.
Yeah, I'm a bit cream crackered, as we would say. So people, in this episode today, we are going to talk about signs from spirit. So we're going to give our views and opinions on the types of signs that you can expect to receive from spirit, and also give you some personal examples here as well, just to put a bit more context around it, because I think that from what I have heard during my development is people have the expectation that a sign from spirit is going to be as obvious as a smack in the face with a baseball bat, and it's not always like that. Some signs can be very, very subtle, and some signs will come in a way in which you're not always going to recognize it there and then, and it's not always going to be a what's the word I'm looking for, like a look at the butterfly. You might be expecting to see a butterfly, but it's not always going to be a literal butterfly. You might see the symbol of a butterfly somewhere. So I think we're going to talk about things like that, just to give you an understanding of our understanding. Yeah, going to give you an understanding of our understanding. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? This time of the morning, for what you can expect from your spirit people. So, Glenda, where would you like to start? What are some of your favourite signs?
No, look, today was beautiful. I'd sat with Spirit. I had done readings this morning, and I've got a few things going on. Which direction do I go in? What do I do here? And, I always used to run things by with my mum because, if you're following, my mum was a really great psychic. So I used to throw things and ideas with her, and she would bounce back at me with yes, no. What do you think about that? And sometimes Glenda goes against her gut and just be's a rebel and not listens to her intuition. So every now and then I like to bounce things off with spirit or my friends that are in this work. So I don't have her. So I sat here today having a chat with my spirit guides, with my team, with my mum, saying, I need a sign today. I don't often ask for a sign from spirit. I just kind of go with it, and went out for a walk, and had this butterfly come, and it was landed on my hand, and I just got that, you know, you're going fine. You're heading in the right direction. There's that change. I felt like change is coming. There's transformation coming. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And then I got home and my daughter sent me a Snapchat and she says, oh, look, her boyfriend's dad sent a picture of him holding a butterfly. And I'm like, well, isn't that a double whammy for me from spirit going two
Mhm.
butterflies? Do you know what I mean? To me, I
Yeah,
see that as a sign as well to go,
yeah,
okay, if they ain't got it off the first one, here's another one. So
yeah,
two butterflies on hands for me today. And I thought, okay, well, I needed that sign. The one thing I always do is when I do get these sort of signs, when I ask for them, I always say thank you,
yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
because I thank them for what they do for us. We are so demanding as humans. We want this and we
yeah,
want that. Send me a sign. Send me a
yeah.
car. I want it to be green. It's got to be at this time of the day and I'm coming around the corner. And we're so demanding. But
Mm,
when do we say thank you for the things that we get? Like
yeah,
feathers. We all get feathers
yeah,
every now and then. Or it's really good when you don't get it for a long time and then you
yeah,
you get one. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
people go, like my husband will just go, it's a fucking feather, it's like, put it
Mm.
down, it's full of lice. And I'm like, no, because when I get a feather, I actually put, and I haven't really told anyone, I put them on the windscreen of a car. And it's like,
Oh,
I think if a person comes across it and they're having a bad day, they're just going to go, oh, wow, that's something special. It could have made their
yeah.
day. It's either going to do that, it's going to piss
Yeah.
them off and wreck their windscreen wipers or
Mm.
something like that. But I kind of pass the message on to someone else if they need it. And I hope that one day
Oh, it's
someone
nice.
looks at it. Yeah, and someone looks at it and
Yeah.
needs it. So, those sort of things. My big one is dream visitations.
Mm.
If you're getting your loved one come to you in your dreams, that is a visitation
Yeah.
because that is when you are the most rested. You are not
Yeah.
thinking about anything. You're
Mm.
conscious, you're just asleep. You're in that phase of receiving and stillness, and your mind isn't racing at 100 mile an hour and you're not overthinking it. So when your loved one comes to you
Yeah.
in your dream, that is a visitation. And I've had a lot of, not a lot, but I've had a few from mum, um, a lot earlier on in the piece, I think. Um, but, I had one where she came and I looked at her and I'm like, oh, I said, you better slow down with your walking. You might have a fall. She goes, no, that's not me anymore. And she was so healthy and she was like looking so good. And I said to her, what are you doing? What's that? And she gave me some Chinese food. And I'm thinking, what is she giving me Chinese food for? And then she mentions like Papa, and I'm like, okay. And anyway, I said to him, I had a dream last night, and he goes, I said, oh, Mum come to visit, and he goes, she visited me last night too. I'm like, really? And I said, oh, she tells me that she's doing really well. And he said, oh, that's good. I really miss her. And I said, she knows that you've had Chinese brought over. And he goes, what? How did you know that? He goes, the next door neighbor brought me over Chinese. And I'm like, well, she told me. So that was like, wow. He was
Mm.
like, oh, wow. So, I get those sort of visitations. Prophecy I do also with my dreams. Well, if you can interpret them in the correct way. Sometimes they're really clear, but the dreams are really good. Do you get dreams as well, David? Do you dream?
Do you know what? I dream every single friggin' night of the week.
Yeah.
That's just how my brain is. And
Yeah.
but those are just dreams because they're really weird things happen. And I've said this before in publicly online. That I've had dreams that my mum was a hooker, and no, she's not. And she knows I've said it because I've said it publicly on my Facebook page. Um, but it's just to give because people do ask. I think a lot of people get worried about dreams sometimes, especially if it's the loved one visiting, and so they do ask, what do our dreams mean? And my answer always is, I am not a dream expert. There are dream experts
Mm,
out there, but I have never studied dreams or looked into them, or whatever. So I can only go on my perception, on my opinion of them. And I think it's important for people to understand that dreams are not the same as visitations. They are two
yeah.
different things. So the first thing I'll say, if anyone out there listening ever has a dream of a loved one who is angry at them or is perceived to be angry at them or not very happy with them, that's not a visitation. That is your mind, in my opinion. That is your
Yeah.
mind just holding on to something that may have been unresolved or just a worry that you have. Like, did I upset them? Were they okay when they passed? And subconsciously, our
Yeah.
brains, without going too scientific, our brains can hang on to that. And that's also why we get nightmares, because it's our brain's way of processing stuff that we've been dealing with, that we've been feeling, that we've been going through, and it does it in our sleep state. Because as you said, Glenda, in our sleep state,
Mm,
our brains are not thinking, we are not overthinking, over analyzing, making decisions, all those things we do during the day. It's that's the perfect time of the day, that's at night, for our brains to process that. So that's that thing. So yeah, with visitations, um, and I like what you said there about getting the information to validate that's what it was. Because I do think sometimes when we have these visitations, we wake up and think, did I imagine that? Or was that really them? And like you, I also ask for the validation, or I get the validation as well at some point. I'll go into that in a second. But it's also important to say to people, because people say, what's the difference then between a dream and a visitation? Well, the visitation, when you wake up from a visitation, you are left in no shadow of a doubt that your loved one was with you at that moment. You wake
Yeah.
up because it's like they were there and you
Yeah.
remember it. And if you're like me, I don't remember my dreams. I could wake up and go for my notebook and pen. By the time I pick the pen up, I've forgotten what the dream is. So I know
Yeah.
that isn't a visitation, because if it's a visitation, your spirit people want you to remember it, not just be a fleeting thing. All right. So again, that could be the
Yeah.
difference between the dream and the visitation. So visitation will feel real. There will be an aspect of it where you think they were there. I know they were there. So you need to trust that that was a visitation. And the other question to answer on the back of that is people say, well, why can't they visit me during the day? Why do they have to wait until I'm asleep? But again, it comes back to what we just said, that when in our waking state, like now, we're busy having a conversation. We're busy
Hmm.
thinking, we're busy talking. Before this, we were talking about different ideas for the podcast. So because we're doing all that, Spirit don't have time to jump in and go, right, let me give you a message. Because
Hmm.
our logical brains are too switched on and they're too engaged for the other stuff to happen. So again, when you are asleep, you go into what we call, again, without getting too scientific, but you go into the delta state, which is
Yeah.
a consciousness of the brain. And that's when your brain waves slow right down. They don't stop, because if they did, you'd be dead, but they slow right down. And because the brain is inactive at that point, that's the perfect time for spirit to go, oh, right. They are asleep. They are not thinking. They are not over analyzing. Let's now go and say hello. So it's a lot easier for spirit to communicate with us whilst we're in that state. So, to then give you examples of some of my visitations. So, I've had quite a few of them over the years, but two really stand out, which is when I had to get the validation for it because I didn't understand it. Um, so I had a visitation where I had my paternal grandparents. Now, bear in mind, my paternal grandfather died when I was 2 months old, so I didn't know him. And my dad doesn't
Mm.
really talk about him, to be honest. I get a lot of information from my mum, actually,
Hmm.
about him, so I never knew my granddad. But anyhow, in this visitation, he told me he was proud of me, and then he gave me a hug, but it was just great. It wasn't just a little. Mm, it was a great big bear hug, and that's how when I woke up, that's how I described it. I felt like it was a bear hug, and I didn't quite understand it, but I didn't question it because I just knew it was just nice feeling, and it was just giving me that hug. It wasn't until maybe a week later I was having a conversation with my mum about it, and she went, "Well, do you know what? That was what he would do. Whenever my mum and dad
Oh,
would go and visit my dad's parents, um, when leaving the house after the visit, my granddad would get up to my mum and give her a great big bear hug." So that was
oh,
my validation that that was in fact him.
him.
So that was a nice little validation there. And then the other one kind of blew my mind a little bit, and I always remember it. So his wife, my nan, his wife, um, she was called, we called her Nanny Di because her name was Diana. So to distinguish between the two grandparents, so
Yeah.
my nan was my nan, mum's nan, and then my dad's mum was Nanny Di. That's what we called her. And again, I think it's that same visitation. And when she comes to, she doesn't talk much. She did in life, but she didn't. We didn't have necessarily a close relationship. Um, but in this visitation, I saw her in my head, and she wasn't saying anything. It was more my granddad giving me the bear hug. And then suddenly I woke up, and my other half kind of looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just seeing dead people. It was like, "Oh, right, go back to sleep." And I said in my head, I said, "Nanny Di, if that is truly you, I want to see your name in the morning. What I meant by that, I have no idea. I said, I want to see your name. So no, back to sleep. So I woke up, and the first thing you normally do is, I do anyway, is go onto Facebook, see what's happening in the world since I've been asleep. What have I missed out on?
Yeah, yeah.
And at the time, I was in a particular group on Facebook where we were doing some psychic investigations, and we would put things into the group which we thought were relevant to the case. And the first that popped up was a post in that group, and one of the girls had posted an advert for, I think it was a yoga teacher, which was pertinent to the case we're looking at. And the first line of this advert said, "Hello, my name is Diana." And I thought, well, if that isn't
Ooh,
validation that that wasn't my nan, then I don't know what is. So
wow.
for me, those two things validated that they were absolutely visitations. And look, not everyone is going to get that. Sometimes you will find these things out, sometimes you won't. But it's important for people to remember that if you don't get the validation, doesn't mean it's not them. It just happens to be that I had that's come up for me. And it's also important to remember that there's not always a message that goes with it. And I'm saying that because I've had so many people say to me, what was the message? I had a visitation. You know, the people inbox you. What was the message? I saw them, but I didn't hear anything. But it's because you're not meant to.
Yeah,
Sometimes the message is within the visitation itself, which is, hello, I'm here, I'm with you. That is the message. They're not necessarily coming through to say you're going to win the lottery or you're going to move house or you're going to meet the person of your dreams next week. The purpose of visitations really is for you to feel them again and for them to let you know that they are there, that they are okay and they're still with you. And that is the message. So people, do not wind yourself up trying to find out what were they trying to say, what were they trying to tell me, what was the message. Accept that they were there and that is the message. That's my opinion on it
exactly.
anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree with that. Um, it's just nice to know that they visit and that they're around, that the feeling, it's pure love. When you wake
Absolutely.
up, it's like it's like you've just been with them. It's like that happiness and that joy. You'll know the difference from a visitation to a normal dream. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
dreams are so like they are very powerful. And I think that when I was first opening up to a lot of this, it was a lot of my dreams. Um, you know, as a child, I used to fly in my dreams. They talk about that
Yeah.
astral projection and
Astral
flying and
projection.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that so down pat in my dreams that I used to hover and stop at traffic lights, and then okay, off I go again. Like I was doing that so often with my dreams. But do you know those dreams also, going on another tangent here. Those dreams, all those where you get paralyzed?
Oh,
Have
I've
you
had
ever had
them.
them?
Yeah.
Same.
What are they called?
Yeah.
Um,
So they're
sleep
they're
paralysis.
the that's it, right? So I used to have them a lot when I was in my teens. And when I remember having them, I haven't had them as an adult. It was a lot when I was a teen. And they used to scare the freaking hell out of me because it felt like you couldn't move. There was something on top
Yeah.
of you. It was really heavy. And I get a lot of messages where people ask me about them because their kids are having them. Well, guess what? My kids are having them, or my kids have had them the last few years. And I thought, well, okay, I know my kids are very intuitive, but it's showing me that they're opening up as well. So
Mm,
I feel like when you have those, because not everyone has them, not
no.
everyone has them.
No.
You are very intuitive, and I feel like you're either your journey is beginning, but they can be scary. Why are they
Yeah.
scary? It's because of what we watch. It's because of American movies and all of those horror movies that puts such a negative spin on it. So when I was younger, I learnt to control it, to be able to wake up go back into that dream, go wake up, go back and keep going back to that same thing. So I learned to manipulate it and play
Mm.
with it. Okay, so where do I go from here? What is it that is happening right now? So what I want to say about that is don't let the fear of what is happening control you or the dream or that state that you're in. Don't fall into the negative or the fear thinking, oh, I've gone through some negative portal and I've bloody come back with something. It's none of that bullshit. I don't get into that crap.
Yeah.
So if you're going to believe in that shit, that's what you're going to be mingling with. So
Yeah.
where you put your energy and your thoughts is what you're going to invite in. So what I'm saying
I
is
believe that as well. Yeah.
don't don't go there. Just enjoy them go back into it. Try and close your eyes and go back into that state. See where it takes you. It can be scary because you're paralyzed,
Mm.
but I've had people reach out to me and go, my son's experienced this, what's going on? Number one is what's going on in his life or her life? What is actually going on in your life
Yeah.
at that present time? Are you going through some trauma? Are you going through some drama? Are you having a really hard time? Because that could be the negative aspect of it. Number two is what the fuck are you smoking? Are you taking drugs or smoking a bit of hooch or whatever that you're on, you know what I mean? You're like
Yeah.
you're traveling in another state or you know what I mean? You're not yourself. So again, are you doing drugs or are you on medication? So I always kind of ask that as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is you're probably opening up to a lot of spiritual things.
Yeah.
And when you are, it can be scary.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anyone to reach out and ask these sort of things to, it can be scary.
Yeah.
But try not to focus on the negative.
Mm.
That's what I believe with that stuff. That's my tangent.
That's because it then triggers me to talk about my experiences with it as well because I didn't know what was
Mm.
happening, and I've had it as an adult. I've had it maybe one last
Oh.
year and one and a couple of years before, and there is a fear with it, and I never had it before
Mm.
until I got into my development where I'm in bed and again you think, am I dreaming or is it? But you feel physically you can't fucking move, and I always there's a little girl in the corner of the room when this happens. And in that moment, I'm trying to open my mouth and scream at her to get out because in my mind, because I can't move, again I perceive it as being a scary thing, and I'm trying to tell her this
Yeah.
poor little girl to fuck off out of my room. Um, and then and somehow I didn't really think about it, and then when I got together with some of the girls to do some that psychic investigation work, they were saying, well, don't see it as scary because it's again where you are intuitively. You're not going to know some, as you said, some kind of portal and dragging some poor little girl
Yeah.
through it back with you. It's more just the levels that we're working on of I don't know. Obviously when we sleep, it is said that we do leave our bodies
Yeah.
by the silver cord, and it's just whatever plane I was on at that particular point. This little girl was there with me, but she's not there to scare me. It's just because I guess the vibrations or the I don't know the frequencies that we go through, it can change your perception of it. And then it wasn't until maybe a year after, without telling anyone about it, a medium had said to me, "You've got a little girl with you, working with you." I thought, oh, maybe that's who she is then, because I can't imagine a little girl. She didn't look like Chucky, like coming at me with a knife. She's just that little girl in the corner of the room looking at me as I'm going through it. And now maybe thinking about maybe she's trying to look after me as I was going through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That going this whole other tangent. But yeah, it's a scary thing to happen because no one wants to feel like they're paralyzed whilst they're in bed or whatever else. But yeah, I guess as you say, if the more you lean into that negative stuff, then the more negatively you're going to think about it, the more scary it's going to be. But actually, if we think about it from a different perspective, it'll be less less that. So yeah.
Yeah. And my son, he had it really bad and it scared the shit out of him. And he was saying, Mum, I feel like someone's sitting on my chest. I can't breathe. So My daughter had it as well. And then my daughter was seeing spirit in her room. She's like, there's someone here. She goes, look at the cat. The cat's even staring up over there, sort of thing. And I'm like, okay. So you know what? I just kind of sat with them and just did a prayer and said,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? You're safe and nothing can harm you. Just we're just going to do a little prayer to say, Spirit, look after me, like whatever you want to do, or set that intention, a prayer, whatever you want to call it, because it's kind of like it puts their mind at ease. And they haven't had one since. I've
Mm,
walked into my daughter's room and said, okay, whoever's here, you need to go. She's not ready to open up. She's not ready for this. It's not her time. So please leave her alone. So, things like that can be done. It's just the way you say it.
yeah.
There's no need to be rude. You just state it. You always send them off with love, and you just go off to the light. Just, go to the light. This isn't your place, all of that sort of stuff. So I don't get into the negative. I've experienced paranormal stuff, and it can be scary when you're not trained, when you're not knowing this sort of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never
Yeah.
felt like, oh, they're going to do harm to me, or, when I'll go and do house clearings, or they're going to attach to me. No, I don't get any of that, because guess what? You have control.
Mm,
If you hand your power over to anyone, to either a human or a spirit or whatever it is, of course, you've given your power away. You have your own power. You are in control. So
yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, no, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
I've gone and done clearings in a house, and I've walked in and been greeted by a grumpy spirit man that this was his home, and, walking in, arms folded. What do you want? You know, I'm like, I'm here to clear the energy and have a conversation. It's about having a conversation. The people here love being here. There's no need to scare them, or they're feeling scared, or, just have a conversation. If something's going on, chat with the spirit folk. I tell you, they're not there to harm you. They just want to be noticed. They want your attention. They're just, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
so that's the dream stuff.
Yes.
That the dream stuff. So when my mum passed, I got a sign from her within a matter of hours, because it was so late at night. And by the time I got to bed, it was God knows what hour. So I'd only had a couple of hours sleep. And we had to organize the funeral, all of that sort of stuff. And it was a very massive ceremony that we were having for her. And I had to go and buy all these different things, like towels and handkerchiefs that we had to tie to the coffin. And it was just massive. So I had to go to this massive shopping centre back in Newcastle. And, I have not lived in Newcastle for how long have we been together? 20 odd years, over 20, 22 years, 23 years, right? So I don't know the shopping centres there. These are big, massive 3-story shopping centres. Anyway, I was there with a brother-in-law friend, I don't know, just kind of family member. He's helping me out. And we'd gone to a department store, and I was looking for these hankies or whatever else. But before that, every day I used to talk to mum, and she goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, just doing some housework, doing something. She goes, sit down, get a cup of coffee, put your legs up, just sit down for half an hour, rest your body. She used to say that to me every day. Or whenever I go, I've got to go and do this, I've got to do some errands, blah, blah, blah. Get yourself a cup of coffee, right? So anyway, walking around this bloody shopping centre, or in this Kmart, it's called here in Australia, walking around there getting the towels. And I heard her go, go and get a cup of coffee. And I just said to him, oh, the old girl's around. She just told me to go and get a cup of coffee. And he's looked at me, because he's not into this stuff. And he's just gone, oh, yeah, right, fucking lunatic. And I said, oh, I've got to get a coffee. And I was feeling really tired because I had no sleep. I was grieving. She just lost her. And he goes to the lady at the front that checks your bags. Excuse me, lady, whatever. Can you tell me the nearest where we can find the nearest coffee shop? And she goes, just down there, turn right, and just around that corner. Off we trot. And we've gone to the front of it. I look up and I kid you not, my mum's name was Seka, right? It's a very unusual name. I look up at the sign and it was her name. Are you fucking kidding
Wow.
me? I was just like, I've just said to him, look at the name of the coffee shop. And he's like, no way. And I said, that was her. She's telling me that's her. Go and get a coffee. And here I am walking in to a coffee shop with her name on it. This name is so unusual. And I've walked up, ordered the coffee, and started crying. I fell apart. I'm bawling my eyes out to this girl, and she's looking at me. She goes, you all right? And I said, no, I've just lost my mum. And I said, and her name is the coffee shop. And she's like, gave me this coffee for free and everything. It was just so nice.
Oh,
Like she
wow.
felt so sorry for me. Like just that, that empathy, and I was
Yeah.
just like, I cannot believe that for a sign.
She got you
And that
free
was only
coffee.
got a free coffee.
Your mum getting you free coffee. That's your little
I
gift.
know. Yeah. So that was like, oh my God. She
Wow.
knows she can't play with me. Like these
Yeah.
got to be really hit you smack in the face signs. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so if you're getting signs like that, that is like you cannot make this up.
Absolutely. And that's a real important thing to say because look, there are going to be skeptics listening to this going, oh, it's just no, I don't believe in coincidence. For once,
No.
I don't never believed in coincidence at all. They're just meaningful. What's the word? Meaningful
Synchronicities.
synchronicity.
Yeah.
That's it. Meaningful. Yeah.
Sync.
Um, so there's nothing coincidental about that at all. Um, but I think it's important to say to people, when you receive your sign, you will feel it. You will
Yeah.
know it because it hits you. It's not like, just finds it. An example I always put on it is that you could be walking through a park and there's like a patch of white feathers, and people might go, "Oh, is that a sign from spirit?" No,
No.
you've just got a bald bird walking around somewhere around here with no feathers. Is what I say. So that isn't a sign. For me, the signs are those things that happen at the most random times. It's those
Yeah.
signs that, like you say, there's no way you can't make that up. That
No.
is what that was. It's not coincidental. Um, and I think sometimes it's hard to trust it because it can seem so random, and we do question ourselves a lot about receiving certain signs and whatever else. But again, people, it's when you receive that sign that's uniquely for you, that hits you in your solar plexus, and you go, that must be a sign. That is a sign. You'll know it when you feel it. And but also remember that signs again, they can be quite subtle, but they can also come in a way in which you're not going to expect it. A bit like Glenda there, not expecting that to happen. But also what I mean is I think sometimes we get so caught up in I have to receive a sign this way. I want to receive a sign that way. And if I don't get it that way, it's not a sign. So the first thing I want to say about that is one, we cannot demand. Like
Mm.
Glenda there, that happened as it
Mm.
happened. She didn't ask for it, which I think is more magical because it was just there that her mum knew that she needed to see that. It wasn't like Glenda said, take me to a coffee shop which has got my mum's name, because why would you think that? You wouldn't,
Mm.
right? So that's even more beautiful that it happened the way it did. But I think we need to remember we can't demand signs. I always say to people, did you ever go up to your grandmother and demand that she do what you say in life? No, of course you wouldn't. You'd get a clip round the ear roll and be told, "Don't you tell me what to do." So what makes us think we can do that just because they're past? We can't.
Yeah.
Signs will come at a time where I feel spirits need you to receive it, not because we always want to receive it ourselves. Because there are times where I've not been thinking about anything and I've received a sign. And again, it's just I know it's there, whether let me know that they are still there at that particular time. So, one, we can't demand we receive a sign, and we can't demand that we receive a sign in a certain way. We can ask for it, but we can't demand it, and then be disappointed when we don't get it. Right? It doesn't work that way. It's like spirit communication in general. I can't demand that I talk to your grandmother or your dad or your brother or whoever. Right? Same thing. Um, the other thing I'll say is to people listening is to keep an open mind as to how you're going to receive the sign or the communication from spirit. And what I mean is, I've had people say to me, I spoke to my grandmother, for argument's sake, in my head, asking her what I should do, and I didn't get anything back. I didn't hear her. And my answer is, well, if all you're doing is paying attention to hearing her, then you're missing out on how she's going to show it to you. Because it's
Yeah.
all about how spirit can get that message through to you versus how you're going to pick it up. So, for example, if you are a visual person, then you're most likely, that's not always not like the case, but you're most likely to receive things in a visual way, like seeing the name on the coffee shop.
Yeah.
If you are more of a sensitive person, then you might pick up smells, like someone's
Yeah.
perfume or smoke or taste or whatever. If you're someone who is more of a chatty person, you like to talk, you're a great communicator, you like music and all that, then you're more likely to hear something instead. And so it's just keeping that in mind that spirit can communicate with us in all types of ways. So you might ask in your head your grandmother for some kind of word of advice. You don't get it in your head, so you think, oh, she's not giving me anything. But then you turn on the radio and a song comes on which has the lyrics to what you need to hear about. But we dismiss that because you're too busy trying to pay attention to what's going on in your head. No, she's going to get that through to you through another way. So through a song on the radio or through an advert on the TV. So people just remember that signs will come in many different ways in a way that you don't that you're not going to necessarily expect, but you should be able to feel it when you receive it. And just to give you a recent example from me, my brother got married on Easter Sunday here in the UK. Now, I was part of the groomsmen, which apparently is a new modern thing to do, um, but I had nothing to do with the organisation of the wedding whatsoever. My sister helped out, obviously my mum and things like that, so I had no idea as what was going on. So anyhow, in the car on the way to the venue in the morning, because we got there a bit earlier to get ready and things like that, so we got a little bit of sneak preview of the venue. And I'm in the car on the way down. I wasn't driving, I was in the back. I looked up to the sky and I said to them, so right, if you're here today, I want you to show me a sign. Not necessarily for me, but for my brother. And my brother doesn't necessarily believe in this anyway, but just for me to know that you are here for my brother, if that makes sense. And I asked six particular people upstairs to do that. So I don't know how it was going to come through, whether it would be a little robin, because robins are symbolic for my mum, um,
Mm-hmm.
to do with my nan and my grandpa and my granddad, or whether it be a feather or whatever. So I wasn't really thinking about it. But so we got to the venue, got all tarted up in our suits and things like that. Then got to have a tour around the venue, and we walked into the venue where the dinner and the dancing would be after disco would be afterwards. And as you walk down the stairs, there's this brick ledge. On top of that ledge, and I didn't know this happened, my sister had taken photographs of all those six people, put them in a frame, and they were overlooking the dinner. So these photographs of those same six people I asked for were there in photographs overlooking that the dinner hall.
Oh,
I thought, well,
wow.
if that isn't not a sign to say that they're here watching, I don't know what is. Because again, I had no idea that was happening at all. So the fact I nearly started crying, I had to walk away from it. I had to stop looking
Yeah.
at it. So I thought, oh, because it hit me.
Yeah.
That, oh, bloody hell. And the same six people I asked to show themselves. So, um, So yeah, so people, as you can
They showed
see,
themselves.
they certainly showed themselves. But yeah, as you
Far
can
out.
see, that no, it will come in random ways you don't expect. Again, I could have been expecting because it was a lovely day and had lovely grounds. I could have been expecting, I don't know, a butterfly to fly past or a feather drop down because but it wasn't. It
Yeah,
came in a way that I was not expecting. But when I did see it, I knew, okay, that's my sign. They were there, and so yeah, that's
absolutely.
my little bit. Yeah, nice little
And it's
sign there.
funny, we were at a wedding as well, the same weekend as you, and it was my best friend's wedding, and um, he had lost his mum just maybe I think 1 or 2 years prior to that, and it was really hard because he wanted his mum there, and and I gave him a big hug, and I said, "Mum says thank you for carrying a little of her in your pocket," and he was like, he just looked at me because she told me to say that to him. I felt like he knows what I do. And I got so emotional. I walked away wiping tears, and he had to walk away because it was like validation for him.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my gosh. So I think weddings are so special. Like if
Mm,
people, the amount of evidence that I've been through of spirit folk being at weddings blows my mind. Like I can tell you dresses, colors, all that sort of stuff, like that I'm getting from the loved one to say that they were there and they saw what you wore and all of that sort of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So they do go to the weddings. They don't miss out. They don't miss out on any of this sort
No.
of stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's why I always say to people if I'm doing like a philosophical address in a service, one thing I tend to say a lot is live your life. You know,
yeah.
ha get married, have those babies, make that achieve that thing that you want to achieve, that goal or whatever it might be, because they are still with us. They will still see what we're doing along our journey. And as you've just said, they prove it in the evidence that we give in readings. They'll say, "Oh, I've been at that wedding," or "I know that baby's
Hmm.
here," or "I know you've got certificates on your
Yes.
wall," or whatever it might be. It comes through in the evidence afterwards. So it's really important that we do still keep doing these things. Because I know, look, I know you know that our lot upstairs will be going, "What are you doing? Get off your
Yeah.
ass and do that thing.
Yeah.
Walk down the aisle." Whatever it might be, they want us to strive to continue because they know they've lived their life, they've lived their physical life, and so
Mm.
why would they not want us to do the same thing whilst we're still here? Of course
But
they
they're
would.
living through us. They're living through
Exactly.
us.
So whilst you're going on that holiday of a lifetime you've wanted to go on for years, go on
Yeah.
it. Don't put it off because they're not here physically. They will still be with you. But whilst you're paying for
Absolutely.
everything, they ain't got to pay for nothing. So they get free flights and free accommodation. Um, they make the most of it. They certainly do. But again, they tend to bring these things up in readings as well, to prove that they were there. So you got to keep living,
Yeah.
people, and keep talking to them in your head. It might sound really mad, and you might feel like you're going mad, but either talking out loud to them or talking to them in your head. But that is your connection with them. That is
Yes.
you keeping them alive within you. That's you. They all say that a thought is a prayer, or a thought is energy, and you're sending that
Mm.
thought, that energy out to your loved ones. So keep that conversation going without putting us out of a job. You know, Spirit want to speak to you. Spirit don't necessarily want to speak to us. We're
Uh,
just the channel that the information comes through. So do speak to your loved ones, people. Just have to carry on that conversation. Is what I say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I mean, look, songs that come out randomly, all those sort of things, like they all mean
Yeah.
stuff. I made a bracelet. A lady had ordered a bracelet. No, yeah, a lady ordered a bracelet, and I'd made this special rose quartz bracelet for this lady, and I was writing a message in because I always write a little message as I send it off with them. Anyway, I sat in the car and I was writing on the envelope that I'd bought, and this song was just like boom in my face, and it was landslide. You know
Mhm.
that, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I just said, oh, this song's come on. I feel as though this is a message from your mum. She wants you to listen to the words.
Yeah.
And I sent it off, and she got back to me and said, oh my God, that was our song. That was mine and mum's
Mm.
song. She said, I'd won this weekend away, and we were, um, I didn't, my partner and I split up. So I took my mum away for that weekend, and it was my favorite album and my favorite song. And I listened to it like 50 times in the car. I drove my mum nuts with this fucking song. And, but do you know what I mean? It was like, and
Yeah.
I took a screenshot of it as I was in the car, and I sent that to her, and she's like, holy shit, like you have no idea what this song means to me. So it comes through in songs as well, messages.
It does,
So
yeah. And when my uncle died, um, many years, only 36 when he died, my mum's brother, his favorite song was Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. And it was like almost a day after he passed. Every time my mum turned the radio on, whether it be in the kitchen or got in the car, that song would be the first song that plays. And again,
wow.
that's not coincidental because I mean you could turn the radio on and any random song could come out. The millions of songs, billions of songs that are those what that particular song came on every single time she put the radio on at different times of the day. It wasn't like it was the same time of the day. No, whatever. Um, Multiple times that song would come on. And although we don't come from a spiritual, and actually going back to it now, I think about how actually spiritual my family are. Me always thinking that, we were raised Catholic, which we were, but actually they also had that mindset of, I know is up there. I know is all
Exactly.
right. That song coming on. And even when it came to the funeral, it was a quite a nice, it wasn't a sunny day, but it was dry and it was quite nice. Soon as we got to the graveside, the heavens opened. And everyone
Wow.
said that's Uncle Frank because he was a joker. He was, I mean, the things he would do, that was his he would be up there laughing his head off, knowing that all day long it's been dry, and as soon as you stand around the grave, it absolutely pisses down the rain. And then it stops when it's finished. It's like so it's those little things to other people it might seem really mundane, but to us it was like, no, that's him because that is his personality. He wouldn't
Yeah.
be happy if it was nice and hot while we're standing around a grave. He'd find it even more hilarious that we stand there
Yeah.
getting soaked with rain. No umbrellas, because we didn't bring them with us
Yeah.
because it's a nice day. Getting soaked. He would have found that highly hilarious. So it's those little things as well that you go, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my son, it was not long after my mum passed, he went to sleep, and he said, I fell asleep with the candle going beside him. And he said he woke up to her whispering in his ear, blow out the candle. And he
Wow.
woke up, and the candle was going. You know how
Mm,
dangerous that is. And
yeah.
I'm like, wow, she was telling you to blow out the candle. Like that was dangerous. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you can't deny this. You know what I mean? Like that's just
No.
it blows me away. Some of the signs and some of the synchronicities, like we talk about. I went to
Yeah.
Tasmania, and in Tasmania, there's no kookaburras. Well, my bird with mum is a kookaburra, because when she was passing away, every night when I was at the hospital, I'd have this kookaburra that followed me to the car every night, and I see kookaburras everywhere. The kids see kookaburras everywhere. It's just random places. We went to Tasmania, and we were going out on a day out in the forest. It was absolutely beautiful. And we're driving, took like, I don't know, an hour to get there. And I said before I left, send me a sign if you're with me on this holiday. And we're driving along, and on the side of the road, on the fence, there was this kookaburra. Now they're native, they're
Nice.
not
Yeah.
down there, right? So, and I looked and was staring, and my husband turned around and he goes, did you fucking see that? And I just went, there's no kookaburras here. I said, that's the old girl. She's sending me a sign. She's here with us.
Yeah.
So it's kind
Absolutely.
of like they do send them to let you know if you ask, and it just depends, again, like what David said, is how open are you? did you notice it, or are you just skipping along in your life so busy that you're not noticing them?
Yeah.
And when you're washing the dishes, that is the best time when you get like these intuitive hits or these messages, or you can feel your loved one. It's that when you it's that that repetitive, mind numbing thing that you're doing. You're just
Yeah.
washing the
You
dishes.
go on
And you
autopilot.
yes, right. But your mind is quite at peace.
Yeah.
And it's that water connection as well. That's when you'll get a lot of stuff because you're with the water, you're just relaxed doing the dishes. I don't know, I'm kind of relaxed when I'm doing dishes, but I
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
lot of stuff when I do the dishes and
Yeah.
in the shower,
In the
in the
shower, yeah, I
shower,
get that as well. Yeah, a lot of drop
the
downs.
shower.
Yeah.
So that is a lot, like you'll get a lot around water because water's a conduit. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So again, numbers, sometimes with numbers, but they happen too much. The 1111, the two, all those.
Yeah, I think if we're real about that, I mean, I do get numbers, but
Same.
it's in a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't what I want to say. It's in a unique way or unique situation. I get so many people who I see screenshots on Instagram where it's a screenshot of their phone, which is 1111. To me, that's not real. I'm not trying to burst anyone's bubble here by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just to make sure we're receiving signs organically and authentically. So if you're looking at your phone every 5 minutes, you are going to notice 1111. It's going to
Yeah.
happen. If you're constantly looking at, if you're on your computer, on your laptop, doing a work during the day, like I do sometimes, I'm bound to see 1111. So I
Hmm.
think it's when they appear in front of you. Um, on car number plates can be. There was one occasion where I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I went out in the car with my other half, or was I by myself? So I don't remember it properly. But I was thinking about spirit and everything else. And as I was doing that, a car pulled out in front of me, which had the first letter of my guides and 333 on the number plate. And I thought, okay,
Mm.
they're trying to tell me
Okay.
something there. Um, so it's things like that. It's those random things where you see those numbers. Like when I was at another occasion, I'm obviously at the gym quite a lot on the treadmill, whatever else. And there've been times where, right, I'm going to stop now because I've had enough. And I look down at the computer screen and I've done 1.11 kilometers and I've burnt 111 calories and the time was 111. So it's in those kind of situations you go, okay, that's not just, but they all line up like that. But yeah, if you're constantly looking at your phone, looking at your watch, looking at your clock, you're bound to see 1111 somewhere or
Yeah.
333. So it's really,
Yeah.
again, it's about the randomness of these things happening. So, I mean, for example, if you're out having a walk, you're thinking about spirit and a white feather drops down in front of you, that for me is a sign because it's random.
Yeah.
But again, if you again come back to the example I used earlier, if there's just a patch of white feathers walking through a park, that's not a sign. You've had a couple of pigeons
No.
fighting, now they're both bald because of the feathers on the grass. Um, so that's not
I
necessarily a
like
sign.
and I like when I've got them when I fill up the petrol, then you look up and you go, oh, okay, how much six
Yeah,
six
yeah,
dollars six six,
yeah,
it's like 666 or something like that. And my one is when I go for coffee a lot. It's like when they give me the table number and it's like, oh, there's my number. It's like,
yeah.
oh, okay then. Those sort of things. Or when I got a tattoo and in Bali, I just got a tattoo and I had the dragonfly for my mum and I had around this side done and I had the 222 for her because she died on the 22nd of the
Mm.
2nd. So they're the 222s. And as I walk back to my motel, I look up and the first thing I see is room 222. And I'm like, okay, then
So
she
yeah, so
knows.
that
She
exactly. So it's
knows.
validating that sign, right? So so yeah, it's all in the randomness, people. For them to actually mean something. And look, I get it. I know we want to receive signs. I know we want things to mean something, but I think at the same time, to give spirit credit and to give you the credit, it's to be realistic about them as well. So you know they are definitely a sign, and and we're not trying to make it be a sign, because then I think it loses the magic when we try to force something to
Mm,
be rather than for it to actually be, if that makes sense. So, but I also
absolutely.
think that there's something to be said for the more you look for them, the more you miss them. So as much as it's about being aware, being open to them, if you're constantly looking for them, you're not going to see them because we tend to look in the wrong places for them. Again, it
Hmm.
comes back to spirit are going to send it to you in a way in which you are going to notice it, in a way you're going to not necessarily going to expect it either. So it's just being
Yeah.
relaxed about it, and it's just allowing these things to happen as they're meant to happen.
Yeah. I remember having I couldn't work out. I'm like, I was going through a difficult time or something. And I wasn't sure if I should walk away from this person or I can't remember what it was about. And I was, driving along in the car. I look up and the bumper bar in front of me goes, "Go your own way." I'm like, okay, then. It's like, righto, it's kind of like validation to what you're already thinking, or, that
Yeah,
extra little sign to go,
yeah,
yep, look up at the street signs or look up at things like that. It's just like, oh, okay, then that makes
yeah.
sense.
No, absolutely. So they will pop up anywhere, people. But I think the last thing to say on it as well, um, before I wrap up, and we've got some other stuff to talk about, um,
Mm.
is the signs are not necessarily there to tell you what to do. And we discussed this, I'm sure, in a previous episode. Um, the signs come through to you to let you know. It could be that you're on the right path, but also it's just so spirit are letting you know that they are still there, that they've got your back. You're not alone, I think, is another major message for
Yeah.
it. But it's not there to tell you what to do. So as much as you might say to spirit, right, give me a sign about what direction do I go in, you might get an intuitive nudge, intuitive hit, but they're not spirit are not communicating with you to tell you what to do, because ultimately it is your life. They've lived their life. Now it's up to you to make those decisions that you need to make. So you might get a nudge or some kind of sign say go down that path or go down that path, but then still it's up to you to go, okay, well, do I pay attention to that? Do I actually do
Mm.
that? But don't expect spirit to be telling you what to do, what decisions to make, because that's not for them to do. Again,
No.
ask for the nudges, ask for those intuitive hits, ask for that little bit of help to help you make that decision. But ultimately, the decision is always yours to make, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I had a client came for a reading. Not my kind of client, not my kind of reading. She was very demanding, and I probably should have pulled it and just not done the reading. Went, yeah. But she was very demanding. I've got such and such here, I've got blah 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 blah. Yeah, get on with it, get on with it. What's the message? That's what she said to me. I'm like,
Wow.
excuse me? I said, doesn't work that way. Well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to sell mum's house or what? What am I supposed to do? Ask him, ask him. And I'm like, they don't give a shit, really, what you do with the house. They don't. They
They
don't
don't, yeah.
care. Material stuff, they don't care what you do with it. Even though you think and we say, oh God, mum would be rolling around in a grave if she knew this was going on. You know what I mean? It's like, to them, they don't care
They
because
don't care,
it
yeah.
doesn't mean anything to them. If you don't want to keep their clothes, they don't care. They're not going to get angry or pissed off that you're giving their clothes away, or, the stuff that they've cherished all their life. They're not,
Mhm.
they don't worry about that sort of thing. We do.
We do, yeah, it's a
We
human
do.
thing. Yeah.
We do. We care about the shit fight that turns out when the wheels are red. We care about all that sort of stuff. They don't. They don't
No,
care about it.
that's true.
I
Yeah.
have I have had I have connected to spirit where they've come through and known about situations where there's
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
much conflict and then there's fighting, and what do they think about this? Well, I have brought through, they have said, gee, things have gone to shit since I've left. Like, because
Yeah.
everyone's squabbling. It's like, the matriarch is gone. There's no one really pulling anyone pulling one into line in the house in with people fighting and carrying on. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they can be a little bit shocked at some of the behaviors, I think, with
Yeah.
the way that we behave,
Yeah.
um, because we might not necessarily have behaved like that when they were here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they, because they want peace, they want us not to fight, they want love, they want us to gather together, not to rip each other apart over
Yeah.
material things.
Yeah.
So I think if you're coming into a reading and you're wanting that sign, what to do with the house or what to do with this, what do I do with this? They don't care, really. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
If it makes you happy, sell it. If it's going to help ease your situation, sell it. They're going to be happy with whatever you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like don't burden yourself with that debt if you can't pay it off. Sell it. They're not
Mm.
going to be angry because you sold their house.
No, because it's no use to them anymore.
No.
Because once they're gone, it's now down to us. It's now up to us to then go through those things. It's up to us to
Yeah.
live with ourselves if we do something wrong. It's not, we
Yeah.
can't put that responsibility because by that person saying that, it's like they want to put the responsibility on a dead person.
Back. Yeah.
You can't do that. That you can't, that's not
No.
their karma to carry. They're no longer here physically. That's for you to deal with. That's for your
Hmm.
human life. Um, that's your responsibility now because they're no longer here. So we can't put it
That's right.
back on spirit because they've lived their life. They've done it. That's been theirs. It's yours now. You've got to make those decisions. Which is why I say spirit can't tell us what to do. They might give a bit
Yeah.
of guidance or advice, or as you say, or whatever. Obviously, they'll see what's going on because that's part of the evidence in a reading to prove they're
Yeah.
still here is that they see what's going on. But it's up to us as humans to handle that. It's a bit like funerals. We're going a bit off a
Mm.
tangent here, but people might say, "I want to sign. Am I doing the right thing for the funeral? Would they have liked that song?
Mm.
Give me a sign." Again, in my opinion, spirit don't care
No.
because the funerals really are for us. They're for us to celebrate our loved ones that have
Yeah.
left. It's for us to a place for our grieving. For my opinion, Spirit have come through saying they like this, they like that, they were pleased with this, and
Mm.
they've told me, people wearing colours at the funeral and the song that was played and other bits and pieces. So it proves that
Yeah.
they are there watching it, but
Hmm.
ultimately they don't really care because they're in spirit. They're all right. They're not in
Yeah.
pain anymore. They're not in that grave.
Hmm.
They're upstairs. Their body might be there, but their spirit, their soul, their essence is not. So they're not affected by the funeral really because they're upstairs, having a lovely old time, as I always say. They're not in a
Yeah.
place of pain anymore or discomfort or whatever term you want to put on it. So again, it's the same thing that funerals really are for us to deal with. They're for us to honor our loved ones, not the other way around. No, people don't die in their funerals for us, do they?
No,
They're,
that's it.
if you look at it that way. So yeah,
Yeah. So, if you're wondering, did they like the funeral? I often bring through, oh, she liked the purple flowers, or, like
yeah,
that sort of thing. They make reference to it. It means that they were
yeah.
there at the
They were
funeral.
there
They were at the
exactly.
funeral.
Yeah, yeah,
Funeral. So, but other than that, if you don't focus on that, don't
yeah,
look for that sign. Whatever you do, you're doing the best that you can.
yeah. Exactly. That's it. And just
Focus
know.
on getting through that day. Focus on living your life. Focus on
Yeah,
making your life happy and whole and peaceful without all the shit that goes with it.
yeah,
Like you don't need it. So
yeah,
if we're going to end on that, we're going to end on
yeah.
focus on your journey, focus on your life, make your life as happy as much as you can. So that's
Absolutely.
my words of wisdom for the end.
Definitely. And just to add to that, it's just honoring yourself by honoring the spirit by honoring yourself. As you said, by living your best life, looking out for those signs, and then when they appear, accept them, hold on to them, remember them. Um, but yeah, ultimately. as long as you're living your life, you'll always make your spirit people proud of you, whether they said it in life or not. As long as you're continuing with your life, living your best life, and that's all that they can ask for.
That's it. And with that, I've decided that I'm going to end with a little message from my oracle cards. And the
Oh,
card that
that's a
I've
nice touch.
actually, yeah, I thought that I'd pull one oracle card. And the card, look what I've got today, David. It's about journey.
Journey.
So again, people, focus on your journey. Make time for your journey. Make time for you to get away. Make time for putting yourself first, because I feel like so many of us push those getting away, me time to the back burner. So when I look at this card, I look at pack your passport, get away, go and do the things that make you happy. Again, when spirit's working, when spirit is with you, they're living through you. So go on that holiday. If you're umming and ahhing about taking off or taking a break or going on a holiday, my little sign is go on that holiday, book that trip. If you're umming and ahhing, do it. So that's my little
Absolutely.
take on that.
That's a lovely touch, Glenda. Thank you. And I've pulled one of my affirmation cards.
Oh,
Which are mine, I designed, they're my wording. And this affirmation for you guys who are listening this week is, I promise to show kindness and compassion to myself. So again, all linking in is,
absolutely.
living your best life, be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself, give yourself that love and the empathy as well when needed, and go on the holiday. Yeah. Continue moving forward on
Absolutely.
that journey. There you go.
That's it.
Well, Glenda, it's been a pleasure as always. And thank
Always.
you to our listeners, as always, for continuing to listen. And again, thank you so much for anyone that has left us comments, left us feedback. We do read them, and
Yeah.
I've tried to like or reply to some of them as well on the back end. So yeah, do keep leaving us comments if you're liking what you're hearing. And if you have, we've said it before, but if you have questions, if you have topics you want us to talk about, we've had a couple which we will turn into another podcast. I think there's one about talking about can we talk about some of the most what was the word used, amazing messages that we've
Memorable,
memorable
memorable
memorable readings that we've done
moments.
or messages that we've given. We'll turn it into a podcast episode as well. But if there's anything else that you want us to talk about, people, do let us know, and we shall turn them into an episode. Because you never know. I always say that just by one person asking a question, you might find actually everyone else has the same question. So by you
Mm.
asking it, we will answer it on behalf of a lot of people. So that makes sense. So yeah. Well, with that, I'm going to start rambling on. Again, thank you, Glenda, and we shall see each other, and we'll see the listeners. Well, won't see them; they'll hear us in
Yeah,
the next episode. So take care, people.
absolutely.
Look after yourselves, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.